Good day, televiewers. We welcome you on board this shift of broadcast, The Lamb over Waka Africa TV. The Lamb is that program wherein we discuss current issues, we discuss views, facts, and we try to see how we shape these different voices to give a better society. In today's edition of the program, The Lamb, we will be having a topic, Biya poll and the new mandate, concerns and challenges. Permit me first and foremost introduce to you the gentlemen I have in the studio as guests. I will start with Ambe Forkwa. He is an Interfaith minister and a Socio-Cultural activist. It's a pleasure having you on board, sir.
Well, it's very, very much my greatest appreciation to be here, and I want to also welcome once again our viewers.
All right. We also have Tsiembom Elvis. He is a journalist. He is a media content provider and the editor of the Observer blog. It's a pleasure having you on set, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambe. Good day to you, and good day to Ambe Forkwa.
All right. I will be starting with Ambe Forkwa. Certainly going by the result of the community of the CC, Constitutional Council, Biya Paul is the new president of Cameroon. How did you get this result?
Well, I'm glad you're saying how did I won't speak for the general public. You know, we had a lot of election irregularities that did seem to create a presentation of this passing 2018 election as if it wasn't very legitimate. So I still have my reserved concerns about the situation ahead of the swearing in of the current incumbent head of state. We do know that the second runner-up, Maurice Kamto, he had about, what they're alleging to be only 14% of the electorate has contested the current results. So I mean, still looking in the whole milieu and process of good governance, I'm still reluctant to really give any clear statement. I mean, if we say that maybe some 2.5 million people have elected Mr. Paul Biya in a population of maybe 20 million, we see we still have less than 10% of the actual population of Cameroon which would have even voted to give him legitimacy. So putting all these things together, like I say, I'm really still looking at the situation. If he's declared president, we'll accept it on the pretext that we know that in political science, force does always guarantee legitimacy. Being recognized by the system in place, the Constitutional Council, the military and law enforcement, we'll go along with it, and in the spirit of democracy, we'll see how we'll start trying to, of course, continue to maneuver with the opposition and maneuver even with the ruling party, because we shouldn't say that governance separates the opposition and the regime in power. We should see it as a process then, and then try to figure out how to make things better in the future.
71.28% official statistics from the Constitutional Council, that's enjoying the support of the masses. What was, or what should I ask you this day, was your reaction to this statistic?
Please, Ambe, not supporting or getting the support from the masses, because 2.5 million people voting for the incumbent is about 10% of the population. So he's legal, but it's not legitimate. That's a fact.
I like that.
Because he has not, if it is in a meeting, the quorum has not been formed. Because not up to, even 15% have been able to come out to decide that you are good enough for us. So I did not receive the results. I received it like any other person here in the Northwest region. Not quite contented with the fact that somebody at 85, haven't been there for 36 years, still thinks that he has some new things to bring. Things you could not do 36 years ago, I doubt if it is now that you can be able to do it. If you have been a wayward father for 36 years, it is not after that that you think that your children will now start giving you respect, that your wife will stop cheating on you because you've had a new mandate or you bought a new suit.
Is voter apathy a problem of an individual?
Yes, it is.
Why do you say so?
I say so because the individual guarantees the sovereignty of Cameroon. He has been sent to protect the integrity of this nation. And if we have an electoral code that has been prepared by this same party, and this electoral code is in use, that does not guarantee that your vote will count. You know, it becomes difficult to tell a common man that go on and vote, your vote will be counted. So it is that person who is supposed to incarnate state institutions who is failing to do that.
Which
That
person
is
are we talking
improving.
about?
I'm talking about the head of state.
Head of state.
Because if we want to fight against voters apathy in Cameroon, we will. We'll be able to do that.
We have lawmakers who make these laws.
You know, we cannot. We know the lawmakers. Cameroon is a one-man show. It's just like in Jangi, where you have the president is the treasurer, he's the secretary, he's the financial secretary, and he's even the advisor to himself. Well, once you run a state on this basis, then you know that parliament cannot do anything to salvage the situation, because those people then know that they belong to a political party where he is chairman. Immediately you kick against those things you want you to enforce, you also be kicked out of those places where you can get your small thing to even feed your family. So it is a one-man show.
These laws did not come to play after elections. The laws were there before the other 8 candidates went in for this election.
And that's why there's voters apathy, right? Because people have never believed in the electoral code. People don't believe in the electoral code. And people will not believe in the electoral code except and until we start looking at those things that can guarantee the fact that we can have free, fair, and credible elections. One of those things, Ambe, it is very simple. Now, when you ask Ambe a question about the Constitutional Council and probably let's look at the litigations that were brought in, that a lot of them thrown out that were inadmissible. With one of them that the Prime Minister voted out of his place of residence.
That's a fact.
It's a fact. We are in a national elections where it's the constituency is the national territory. If we have full biometrics, I mean, what stops you, even here, registered in the electoral list, even in Garua, you just input your fingerprint into a machine and your vote is counted. You can't vote anywhere again across the national territory. And those votes are tallied within few hours. As you are voting, it is tallying. As you are voting, it's tallying. At the close of the post, you have the result. People will believe in the system, and we must have conquered voters' apathy.
Ambe, Joshua accepts defeat. Kamto rejects a result. What do you make of this?
I make of it as it being exactly what it is, still tying again to what my brother Ndi is really pointing out there. It means that they've recognized that in the context of even the topic, Biya and the next mandate, the concerns and challenges. The concerns and challenges, first prioritingly, should be electoral reforms. That's what I start to envision, because, both of their situations are the same. If a man is contesting the results and then another man accepts his defeat, it's under the context and situation of how the elections were conducted. We have to also remember that Mr. Osi, even before accepting defeat, the SDF also tabled their petitions in the Constitutional Council, which were rejected and thrown out. I mean, we're talking about a situation where if you want to look at ELECAM, even the National Vote Counting Commission, and even the Constitutional Council, we have a problem where we could say at least 70% of the members in all of these bodies, if you would group them together, are directly or indirectly appointed by the current incumbent head of state, who as well was contesting in the election. I mean, I really want to look at this as one of the greatest challenges that Mr. Biya will be facing ahead of the upcoming legislative, assembly, and municipal elections, because we're still going to be dealing with this same electoral code. So, I mean, Kamto is very clear. He's not recognizing it because it was clearly tabled. They debated with the Constitutional Council, which has its authority of appointment in place to be coming from the incumbent candidate. It's a real terrible situation. In other developing countries, in countries where you see democracy is more authentic, a lot of these individuals are voted. Yes, there are committees that will vote them. There's populations that will vote them. You don't just find individuals being appointed by a particular individual and then thrown into the situation. If the head of state can start to look to, amending that situation, perhaps in future elections there will be a more fair playground.
The same election, a candidate accepts defeat, the other says no to the result. What is your take?
Well, the candidate who is accepting defeat really knows that he did not put up a fight.
That's also true.
When you put up a fight, you know what can probably happen. And before we even went into these elections, Maurice Kamto had made it very clear that the result in the northwest and southwest regions, to him, he will not be able to recognize that. Because the population on that fateful 7th of October, we had gunshots everywhere. Since I wasn't out, I cannot individually contest the number of people that we getting that they voted. But if the process was also free, if the incumbent and his government had also made the ground level for all the players, then we would have been looking at a situation where you can accept results from the Northwest. O.C. Joshua, I must say, he is an example of what we should not be looking at an opposition political candidate again in the presidential election in this country. Because for instance, he has a mandate from his political party. He goes on to campaign as a one-man show. Look at the document in which...
Whose fault is that? The party or the candidate?
The candidate. The candidate's fault. Take for instance, even take a closer look at where he wrote that he has accepted defeat and that he worked for peace in the Northwest and Southwest. Where has he been for the last 2 years? He wants to work for peace. Did he come here to even talk to the people of the region during the campaigns of how he thinks he will work out that peace? He did not. Look at, for instance, if you take a look at the sheet in which he printed out his acceptance speech or his defeat, you see that at the top, it doesn't even contain any emblems of the SDF. It contains just OC 18. And then there's a small foot corner here, footnote here, that's where you can find the SDF. Just to tell you how he had the mandate of a political party and has gone to, he represented them woefully. And now, did he come back to consult the party before even making those kind of declarations? He did not.
I'm sure he probably would have had to. I understand the SDF is a very centralized party with the role of the chairman and the neck.
I may have been able to talk with the chairman on these aspects more than once. And I must say that the SDF regrets a lot how they could have even invested in Joshua. Because the outcome of this political parties... well, developments are coming. Developments are coming within the SDF and it's going to prove all of us either right or wrong.
Who is regretting? A convention invested a candidate, and who is regretting? The convention or an individual?
There are so many people within that convention. The convention is made up of people, and people are looking at the candidate in which they voted to represent their political party. What did he carry to represent the party? How did he carry himself? Did he campaign alongside other bigwigs of the party? If you would challenge us to look at who was the campaign manager of Joshua Osi, let's just leave that as a point of thought for our viewers to go check it out. Who was the campaign manager of Joshua Osi? So let's see if he had any other thing to do apart from accepting defeat. But when other political parties like the MRC of Maurice Kamto did their underground works, have been planting their roots since...
Could they even be active in the Northwest and Southwest? Because that's how I want to look at it, that maybe OC truly, I mean, for his own benefit of doubt, he had to accept his defeat because he knows, like we all do, that the Northwest and Southwest do form the bastion and stronghold of the SDF. And with their incapacity to participate in the 2018 election, then, I mean, it was just a clear and given that he had to accept his defeat. He knew that there was no way.
Secondly, just to add something to that, we have the Bamili case in the West, and the people of the Littoral who have stood by the SDF. They have been very loyal to the party. But of recent, they have decided to maybe, let me use the word tribalize. So they are now supporting Kamto, a son of the soil, a son who now incarnates more hope than Joshua Osi to them. So they decided to send their votes to the MRC. The SDF has often scored well in the Littoral.
That did not stop the ruling party beating Kamto in his own backyard.
Yes, by the official results presented by the Constitutional Council.
That's the only result we could work on as of now.
As of now. So I will not detail that fact, but I must say that would have also improved on the percentage of the SDF in the West if they had the West and the Littoral like they used to have in previous elections. So the Maurice Kamto effect has done great damage to the SDF party because it has been able to sway votes in the West region and the Littoral region.
In that case, the fault should not be that of the candidate. I'm
saying that the candidate as well took out a lot of time and did not do his underground work. From the time he was invested as the flag bearer of the SDF, he already saw himself at A2D. Not knowing that to go to A2D, you need a lot of work. And
there's a lot of polemics.
See, this is one aspect we need to learn about politics in Cameroon. Paul Biya is like a military general. He has his foot soldiers who go to the war front and do the battles for him. He just comes to give instructions. That is how other political parties should groom their presidential candidates. To be able to act as generals while they have foot soldiers who will be doing the campaigns in the suburbs, in all the nooks and crannies of the country. But if you think there's only one person that will also move around and do all of this work, we are failing. Where's the Pobia campaign? Just a matter.
Especially only 2 months to the time of the
election.
election.
And he had 71%. But the SDF, the OC has been on since around February when the convention held. But what I'm saying here, why I continue to see that he has a little bit of blame, is that he did not work with other party bound people who are known within the SDF. We can question most of these facts.
You are watching the Lamb over Waka Africa TV. Coming back to our subject for the day, Ambe, going by legality, President-elect is Biya. Now, what are the immediate concerns of his mandate?
Well, me, I want to recognize that under the current context and situation, he will be a president of all of Cameroon. And we know Cameroon has both a French-speaking population and an English-speaking population. So it would be impossible for me to, of course, with even our time and all of the dynamics that we have to focus on, to go into talking about globally his own priorities, including French Cameroon. I want to look at what concerns English-speaking Cameroonians. Two things immediately come to my mind. The current head of state, he has to deal immediately not only with the electoral code, an issue, knowing that the legislative elections and municipal elections are coming. He has to deal stiffly with what we know is the Anglophone problem, the Anglophone crisis. This is what I think is his most glaring challenge and issue right now. We couldn't vote is what we've been talking about in the Northwest and the Southwest regions. Since 2016, October, November, there's been political turmoil in the country linked to a lot of history. That's how I want to just say it. We go back to 1961 and all of the rhetorics that we're hearing in play, but right now, he has to find a solution to this problem. Now, for me, what I would recommend the head of state to do are, immediately we're approaching November, and there's been a lot of talk about dialogue, national dialogue. The UN has been lobbied. We keep hearing the UN speaking back saying dialogue is necessary. The AU, everyone is speaking of dialogue. Even Olusegun Obasanjo, I mean, African leaders now are turning their voice and saying dialogue. We remember that there was an initiative which was launched by Cogno Tumi, which has been echoing itself in the media concerning the, Anglophone General Conference. Yes, you see, November 21st and 22nd. Now, I would like to personally advise the head of state to look in that direction as well as other English-speaking Cameroonians. Now, why? Because the situation that we have that emerged was created on the pretext of marginalization, which has instigated some other individuals to come forth now with a separatist movement. Now, this is the question I'm going to put on the table. What do the people who are citizens of former Southern Cameroons, what is their interest in all of this? You see it. We now are citizens of what is accepted to have been the United Republic of Cameroon, which has been changed to La Republique de Cameroon. We have to fit in. We have to recognize that in the framework of this situation, with the continued death and murder, and we have to find a way to get a situation where we will have peace and good governance will be preserved. I think that we start to look in this direction, preparing individuals who will participate from the Northwest and Southwest to push forward the aspirations of the people, so that they should be tabled into some form of recommendation, which then could be recognized by the international community as the voice of those people concerned internally. Then I think that this now could be met in front of the head of state, who could use it like a working document aspiring towards an actual national dialogue. Because from my understanding, the AGC is not still the national dialogue. The AGC is a platform to bring together English-speaking Cameroonians to create a recommendation which could be submitted to the head of state, which he then could act upon in the interest of finding a solution to this current crisis. Currently, we don't have a unified voice. Many people will say, oh, it's the Ambazonia government.
Will it be different from what the Bilingual Commission is doing or has done?
See, the way I'm speaking, if you look at it in its context, the Bilingual Commission has to be involved there. Are they not English-speaking Cameroonians? They are Anglophones. Every voice, even the separatists abroad, they're activists. They should find a way within the framework of law to have their own representatives there. It does not mean, because truthfully, I know I've read the concept document and Cardinal Toomey has requested amnesty, release of detainees, but the government can't actually budge on it. I mean, I want people to really understand. We're in a situation where we want to follow a framework which will find a solution. If we instead start to impose ideas which won't even let us get the door open, then it means we're not going to get very far. So I'm looking at this in the context that with the Bilingual Commission, with our civil society, with institutions like CATU, even the common individual has been invited on the 21st and 22nd to get into this initiative in Biya. I mean, unfortunately, you will have to pay your own transport and lodging. But if you feel that you have that concern and want your voice to be met, get there and be very vocal in such a way that whatever comes out should represent unanimously a way forward that this head of state, as recognized, can deal with and put us into a better situation. We should note that many people like to always remark that Munza, they call the name of Dr. Munza, who is Secretary General of this initiative, they like to give him a lot of suspicion. But this is how we need to focus on this issue. The AGC is a conference and a platform. It is not Dr. Munza or Cardinal Toomey imposing anything on any population, because the resolution that will be taken there will represent the participants. You see this? So we need to make our voice heard there so that this head of state can act on something. I mean, really something, aside from us believing an armed front will take us out of the situation.
Elvis, seven more years to add to 36. What are the concerns, immediate concerns the president-elect should have?
The immediate concern should be resolving this Anglophone problem or this Anglophone crisis. But just to say that it is not because this crisis has not been resolved, not because the head of state does not know.
Obviously.
Yes, when these agitations came up around 1975, before the death of Augustine Gumjoy in 1977, he was Prime Minister and he led a commission like this put in place by the former head of state, Amadou Ahijo. So he is versed with the problems of Anglophone.
So is it bad faith or poor governance, or how can you tell me?
Well, unfortunately, it's the fact that we do not have a head of state, we do not have a president. We have a demigod who is being worshipped by people who surround him. They don't want him to behave as if he's a leader.
Demigods don't provide solutions?
No, because I can't understand how you have been in power. It's also not, let's be also truthful to ourselves that you have been in power for 36 years and you don't know the concerns of your people. Then it is not logical. It doesn't make any sense to me to be in power for 36 years. I don't know the concerns. So, well, but to say we are more organized as Anglophones, as people of the gentleman's club, let's meet in the AGC and then draft what we want him to do. Because we have done these same documents with the Bilingualism Commission. A lot of people have personally written to the head of state, but he has not acted upon them. We have had some cosmetic measures. And the thing that Anglophones will need, it will not be maybe safeguarding education, tarring roads, the liberty support. No. It's just to protect the minority rights of Anglophones and give them a voice. That is all. That is everything that is done. For instance, we're talking about legal and legitimate. To be able to say you are a legitimate president of the Republic of Cameroon, you should be able to score a certain percentage in Anglophone Cameroon and a certain percentage in Francophone Cameroon to gain that legitimacy. We should be able to do these things. And then, one now are the immediate concerns of the head of state. One, I talked about.
When you talk about percentages, what do you mean? Is there any law that says that?
No, that's why we are moving towards this.
That is the idea.
These laws to also ensure that as an Anglophone.
Why should we even talk of Anglophone Cameroon and Francophone Cameroon?
Because we are two entities
that is what is there.
There is no way we will ever start to say we are not two entities that came together. We were one before.
Yes, by the history we know, matter of fact, we were two countries that came together in a federal constitution, which at least it had clauses which guaranteed that we were supposed to remain autonomous. Now, I don't like to go too far into the whole rhetoric of it, but I think that that is a fact.
It is.
And the way that we were brought into the unitary state, it's not respected a lot of our cultural integrities. And that is why we're in this situation right now. And that's all I want to add there.
The Bilingualism Commission is a commission that was put in place by the head of state to provide solutions to this Anglophone problem. So when you say that nothing has been done so far, what do you mean by that?
When you say the Bilingualism Commission was put in place to provide solutions, which solutions have we had? Rather, the crisis has degenerated, internally displaced people, flooding the cities. So the commission has not lived up to expectations.
Because it's not considered legitimate.
It has not.
If it's legal.
Yes, it has not lived up to expectations. Like I'm saying, Ambe, let Anglophones be able to know that we all belong to the same state of equal rights. It is not just for people to say it. It should be seen to have been done. That we live in the Republic of Cameroon as an Anglophone, and you know that anywhere you stand, you can be able to fight for your rights as an Anglophone. We should not even at this level, more than 50 years after independence, still be looking at issues like people who lived in the dark ages. In a republic as such, state institutions should have been able to guarantee issues like this for people not to be seen as having been left out. So these are some of the failures we've had for 36 years that should be rectified in these 7 years. I even doubt if they will be rectified. But the issue is that if we live in a republic, I think ministers should be able, as at now in Cameroon, nobody should hold a public office if that person cannot speak French and English perfectly.
These are good points that need to come out.
Nobody should do that. Even the head of state should not be elected if he cannot address his people in both French and English.
Yes.
That way you are, because when you start doing, we focus on one language, you are just telling the other person that, okay, wait, I will send you another translator. It means you are already undermining that person's own ability and contribution towards.
And let me just add something. These are protocols that were supposed to have been guaranteed under the Federal Constitution of 1961. We knew that government communiques were supposed to have been printed in both French and English. But these things have just not been respected. I mean,
not even talking about printing. Yes. Look at the president of the Constitutional Council. When he was declaring the result, did we have an iota of English? We did not. That's just to tell you, do we have English people or English-speaking people at the Constitutional Council? Yes, we do. So why is it that the two people who were selected to read the result, they didn't take into consideration the Anglophones that are there? These are some of the things that make you to sit at times and you say it is sickening. And
these are just
the head
facts.
of state should be able to address these issues and make all Cameroonians to feel Cameroon.
When we talk about the head of state, we are talking about an individual. But we know that the laws of the land are made stronger because of institutions. In Cameroon, what kind of scenario? Is it that the institutions are weak or that the president is too strong?
Well, I want to look at it like this. Coming from its original setup, CNU, to CPDM, and then the framework behind, I don't think even the institutions really were given an equal playground right from the inception. We've never had a very pure democratic system in this country because behind this political party and its ruling capacity, we've always seen a lot of appointments, we've always seen a lot of allegiance to the head of state. So it would be difficult to even try to reflect on a period in Cameroon's history when we could say the institutions truly were autonomous from the current head of state, because our current head of state, we know that he enjoys control of the executive like he naturally should. But following some of the electoral polemics in the early 90s and the boycott of the opposition from the 97 elections, it created this field now where we see a majority hold of the ruling party in the National Assembly. So it makes us realize that the head of state has the executive now. He also has the legislative. Then now when we want to look now at even the concept of ENAM, the appointment of magistrates, us knowing that the judiciary is directly responsible to the head of state because of so many of these direct appointments and political authority. We see that even the judiciary, the third wing of the government now, is actually indirectly controlled by the head of state.
He's directly. He's the head of the higher judicial council. So directly he does that.
See the
he
armed
appoints
forces as well.
magistrates. He transfers magistrates. It should not be done.
And that's the problem. So we can't say that the institutions are separate from this individual. He's directly actually controlling them. And that's, I mean, truthfully, in a democratic system, we know of checks and balances.
With what Ambe says, it means that it's very difficult for us to separate the president.
It is not a matter of being difficult. It is not separated. It is not separated. It is one man. I've told you that Cameroon is a one-man jangi, where the president is every other thing.
Now, in a democracy, how can the opposition do to make sure that we come out of this?
No, it's the opposition to instill hope to the people, which try to fight against voters' apathy, get electoral registers from the current 6.6 million to about 14 million, and let the voices or those who talk on WhatsApp, those who talk on Facebook, those who talk across all social media platforms, talk with the ballot box. That way we can make
electoral reforms. Really.
There are other things that I think the head of state should do as we move towards this is 7-year term. First, the government is too bogus. It's too big. It takes a lot of natural resources. It takes a lot of resources that can go into helping this country to develop. We need to stream down on the size of the government to something small that we can be able to accommodate. We are just 25 million people. 68 to 69 ministers or a government is too big for us, with state cars and all the other things. Let's have something small we can be able to manage. Then the head of state should also be looking at how the local people can control their resources for their personal development. I'm not looking whether it is federation or decentralization, but let the local people have a voice in their own development. Everything should not come down from Yaoundé to Bamenda. The Bamenda man should get up in the morning and say that we can be able to tar the Metapatas Church of the World, and we do it with our own resources the way we think that it should be done. Again, in his other mandates, we have heard about giant projects that he really wishes to realize. I think the head of state should be thinking about the Limbe Tsiembom. That's one thing he has abandoned, and it's part of the Anglophone problem.
Is it abandoned or they're taking their time?
No, that it was the Limbe Tsiembom started before the Kribi Tsiembom, and Kribi is complete. So what happened to the Limbe Tsiembom project? It's a natural Tsiembom, not under what is even obtained in Kribi. Then we should be looking at the fact that we need roads, we need railways in Bamenda, in the northwest. I don't know about the rest of the country. Let me concentrate where I am. In the northwest, let rails be able to take me from here to Campbell within 1 hour.
Or even the far north.
And I come back. I should be able to leave Bamenda here to Douala in a good, chain. I don't know a good wagon, to Douala, and I come back. Then the ultimate cry of the northwest man is our ring road. It's more than 25 years he promised that ring road. We are still to see the light of day of that ring road. So you should be able to work on these concerns. But the most important is youth empowerment. Youth empowerment. Let our youth be able to look at the private sector as an initiative to be able to venture in. I mean, when you have a child home, and every now and then you are the one who gives that child money to go and buy food, gives that child money to go and eat, money to go and buy a ball and come and play. You own that child. That child cannot stand against you in any way whatsoever. But when that child starts working his for money, there are times that you even call the child to tell the child what to do. The child will tell that no, I am now a big man. I think we have reached the stage where the youth in Cameroon are big people. So let's not be treated like children who should be given bonbon all the time. We have the initiatives we can take. Government should come in just to give us the leeway and provide laws that can safeguard the small businesses that youth want to do. We are becoming global entrepreneurs. We just need that push.
1 more minute. Challenges, concerns, another 7 years for us to go.
It's really, I know I've already highlighted the issue of our need for an address to the Anglophone crisis.
Yeah.
Like I said, the AGC looks like a way forward. I've also thought of the issues that we're having now with electoral reforms. We see that Mr. Kanto and the issue that is coming up even ahead of the inauguration, it's something that points that will be an area where even in the future we still need to look at. Then just behind that, I'd like to consider the educational sector and enhancing technical education, just linking to what my brother Elvis is saying. we can't expect youths to become empowered if they don't even first have the knowledge and technical skills. In Cameroon, this orientation towards entering the civil service, getting a matriculation, receiving a salary monthly from a government where we don't know where the funds are coming from. You see it. We need to, that sector, it needs to be improved, not only with the education, but I want to really, we need to start talking economics in this country.
Industrialization.
Yes, industrialization, liberalization of the tax sector. This is coming to my head. We should stop taxing companies according to categorization. You should be taxing companies annually based on their actual income. Yes, they'll say that they give you 10 years to operate before taxation comes in. Normally, that's the time that you're just starting to peak, and the little funds that have come in, they start to be siphoned out, paying money that's more exorbitant than what you're capable of bringing in, based on the fact that if you're in Bafut, they'll say you have maybe a medical center there, but they'll categorize it with a thriving medical center in Bamenda in a more economic environment, or even Douala. It's just categorization. We have those issues. And then really, let me say this before we go out. We've been seeing it over and over and over. Mr. Biya needs to work on corruption. Everyone knows what needs to be done. I won't go into it. You said we have a minute.
Thank you so very much, Ambe. It was a pleasure having you here.
All right. It's always my pleasure to be with the pit stop here.
Thank you so very much, Elvis.
Well, thank you very much, Ambe. And just lastly to say that we should stop talking too much about grammar. Grammar has not taken the country to emergence. We should start looking at the farm. We have a lot of piglets that we can grow at our backyards. We have a lot of things we can do with our hands. And our educational system should train people to be job-oriented. People who can come out from school and be able to deliver something different
to create
from
jobs.
what they have learned. Entrepreneurship should be part and parcel of our educational system. Not all the scientata, postata, and all those things that will never put foot on our
Thank you so very much, Elvis. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, televiewers. It was a pleasure being in your company. On the LAM, we brighten our minds, ideas, and redirect our ideologies to global thought. Take the rendezvous for the next edition. I have been Staffman Ambe, Macmillian Hour, wishing you a nice day.